The theater was quiet long before the cameras began to move. Soft lights rested above the wide stage, glowing like a calm sunrise that had decided to stay indoors. Rows of empty seats waited patiently, holding the silence the way a deep breath waits before a song begins. The air smelled faintly of polished wood and warm cables. Everything felt paused, as if the room itself was listening. Backstage, a shy Filipino teen stood near the wall, holding a small paper cup of water with both hands. His name was Daniel Reyes. He was 16 years old, thin, with slightly hunched shoulders, as if he had spent years trying to take up as little space as possible. His black hair was neatly combed, but one small strand refused to stay in place, falling gently over his forehead. His hands trembled just a little, enough for him to notice, but not enough for anyone else to see. Daniel had never imagined himself here. He came from a small town where mornings were loud with roosters and evenings were quiet with shared dinners and soft laughter. Music had always lived in his home, but quietly. His mother sang while washing dishes. His father hummed old love songs while fixing things around the house. Daniel learned early to keep his voice low, not because anyone told him to, but because he felt safer that way. When he sang alone, his voice was full and honest. But when people watched, something inside him tightened. Words stuck, breath shortened. Still, music was the one place where he felt true. It was the only place where he could say things he never said out loud. That was the problem he carried with him now. He wanted to be heard, but he was afraid of being seen. A production assistant gently called his name. Daniel nodded, even though his heart was racing. He took one last sip of water and placed the cup down carefully, as if it mattered where it rested. Then he walked toward the stage entrance, each step slow and careful. The lights grew brighter as he stepped forward. The theater was no longer empty. It was full of faces, cameras, and quiet energy. At the center sat the judge's table. Simon Cowell leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, eyes focused. Heidi Klum smiled warmly, her posture relaxed. Howie Mandel leaned forward slightly, curious. Sofia Vergara adjusted her seat, eyes shining with interest. Daniel stopped at the center of the stage. The spotlight found him instantly. It was warm but heavy, like standing in the sun too long. He swallowed and looked toward the judges. "Hello," Simon said, his voice calm but direct. "What's your name?" "Daniel Reyes," Daniel replied softly. His accent carried the gentle rhythm of home. "And where are you from, Daniel?" "I'm from the Philippines," he said, his voice shaking just a little. Simon nodded. "And how old are you?" 16. There was a pause. It wasn't uncomfortable, but it was deep. The kind of pause that gives space for something important to happen. "What will you be doing for us today?" Heidi asked kindly. "I will sing," Daniel said. "What kind of song?" Howie asked. Daniel hesitated. He looked down at the floor, then back up. It's a song from my heart." Sophia smiled softly. "Take your time," she said. Daniel took a breath. The microphone felt cool against his fingers. For a moment, he thought of his mother, standing in their small kitchen. He thought of late nights listening to old songs through cracked speakers. He thought of all the words he never said. The music began quietly, just a simple piano. The notes moved slowly, leaving space between them. Daniel closed his eyes. When he sang the first line, his voice was gentle, almost fragile. It floated instead of pushed. Some people leaned forward, others held still. His voice carried a softness that felt real, not practiced. As the song continued, something shifted. Daniel's shoulders relaxed. His breathing deepened. Each word landed with care, as if he were placing memories into the room one by one. He sang about feeling small, about watching the world from the edges, about hoping someone would notice without having to shout. Simon's expression changed. His arms slowly uncrossed. His eyes softened, just slightly. Heidi placed her hand over her chest. Howie stopped moving entirely. Sophia's smile faded into something more emotional, her eyes shining. Daniel reached the chorus. His voice grew stronger, not louder, but fuller. It filled the theater without force. It wasn't perfect, but it was honest. Every note carried feeling instead of fear. This was the gentle twist. The shy boy was no longer hiding. He wasn't trying to impress. He wasn't trying to win. He was simply telling the truth in the only way he knew how. The audience began to feel it. You could sense it in the stillness. No coughs, no whispers, just listening. Daniel opened his eyes and looked forward. His gaze met the judges, but he wasn't scared anymore. He sang the final verse like a quiet promise. When the last note faded, He held it just long enough to let it breathe, then released it. Silence followed, not the empty kind, the full kind. For a second, no one moved. Then the applause began, slowly at first, then growing into something strong and steady. People stood. Some wiped their eyes. Daniel stood frozen, unsure of what to do. He bowed slightly, almost by instinct. Simon leaned forward. "Daniel," he said, his voice measured. "That was very special." Daniel nodded, unable to speak. "You didn't try to be anything you're not," Simon continued. "And that's rare." Heidi spoke next. "Your voice feels like a warm letter," she said. "Like something personal. Thank you for sharing that." Howie smiled gently. "I could feel your heart in every note," he said. "That takes courage." Sophia looked at Daniel with affection. "You are so young," she said. "And you already understand emotion. That's beautiful." Daniel felt tears rise, but he blinked them back. Simon paused. He looked at the other judges. Then he looked back at Daniel. "Do you know how many people are watching right now?" he asked. Daniel shook his head. "Millions," Simon said, "and I think many of them felt what we felt." Simon's hand moved. The golden buzzer lit up. For a moment, Daniel didn't understand. Then the sound exploded. Gold confetti poured from above like warm rain. The audience roared. Heidi jumped up, clapping. Howie laughed in disbelief. Sophia stood, hands covering her mouth. Daniel gasped. His knees weakened. He brought his hands to his face as tears finally fell. The golden light surrounded him, and he felt like he was standing inside a dream. Simon stood as well. "You earned this," he said simply. Daniel looked around, overwhelmed. He thought of his family watching from home. He thought of every quiet moment that led him here. He realized something important. Being shy didn't mean being silent forever. As the confetti settled, Daniel took one last breath and smiled. It was small, but it was real. The stage no longer felt too big. It felt like exactly where he was meant to be. And in that moment, surrounded by golden light and honest applause, Daniel understood that his voice had always been enough.